Welcome, everyone, to Life Beyond 6 Feet. I'm Damien from RKB Paranormal, and this week I have a very special episode. This is my biggest episode yet. I have 5 guests on from haunted South Florida. I have Gina, Callie, Christina, Aaron, and Tim. Guys and gals, welcome to the show.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Hello.
Hi.
So, how are you guys doing tonight?
Doing great.
Yeah,
Very
doing
good.
great.
Yeah.
Living the dream.
Hell yeah. All right, so I'm just going to jump right into this thing. Who started haunted South Florida?
Tim.
Tim, you did.
Yeah, I've been doing this for 20, 25 years. And I wanted to get back to the grassroots of investigating and helping people. And I found out, I worked with a lot of these people at investigations events, and I saw a lot into them, a lot of them that they were really into it. They want to learn and they want to just go out there and help people. And actually, they do a lot of experiments. So they're doing a lot to help the field, and their
Alright.
excitement and commitment is addictive.
Hell yeah. And there's actually 9 total of you guys, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
9,
so why such a large team? Is there a reason behind it, or you just decided, you know what, I like all these people, I'm just going to add them to the team?
Yeah, we brought them in, and it's a team. It's not Tim's team. I'm just a member
Right.
of the team. So we brought everybody in, and we decided this is the chemistry we have is really gelling, and we're going to leave it at this for a little while. But we do a lot of events, a lot of public investigations where we need people there,
Mm-hmm.
and we do interactive investigations where people actually investigate with us. It's not a walking tour.
Right.
They get to hold the tools, and whatever tools turns them on, maybe during a class we do, or tools they've seen on TV, they get to actually grab it and work with it. So, but to watch these ladies work is amazing how they interact with the clients. It's amazing. It's something that I saw in myself 20, 25 years ago. So
Right. Well,
it's amazing.
that's awesome that everybody's kind of interactive with the guests. I've been to a couple of public events where they pretty much just stand there and don't really explain anything that's
Yeah.
going on, how anything works. And I always thought that was kind of dumb. Like, how are you going to hold a public event and not really explain anything? So,
Yeah.
so I'm
I
just
mean,
going to go ahead.
we do the class, and then we call it learn it then do it, because
Right.
you are the investigator for the night.
Hell yeah. All right, so I'm just going to kind of go to each one of you. Tell me a little bit about your personal experiences, kind of what got you into the paranormal. Christina, since you're first on my screen, I'll start with you.
All right. Well, I guess I've always really been into the paranormal. I've only been with Haunted South Florida since August. I started doing events with them in April, but I'm clairvoyant. I've been able to see ghosts since I was 9 years old. I've had some really crazy experiences. I actually just had talked about my longest experience when I went to Florida State. My freshman year, I lived in Kellam Hall, and I had a 9-month, very long experience with a spirit who became very well known around the 9th floor, and it was just an experience in general. As I got into my 20s, I was a little scared of it, but I started to get into like a Wiccan path. I started looking more into like a different route. I was raised Catholic, and I was starting to move away from those belief systems. And I just was trying to figure out where I was when I was like 22, 23, 24. As I started to develop that kind of spiritual path, that's when I started to really see figures and ghosts and angels. And I started realizing that there was something more to it. So I was doing a lot of ghost tours. I fainted in New Orleans the first time I had ever gone. I did
Oh,
not know
hell.
where I was.
Oh, man.
I was actually under Lawlery Mansion in New Orleans,
Oh, right.
and I did not know until I woke up from where I fainted. So I had all kinds.
That's a hell of a place to faint too.
That was like my first time ever being like psychic attacked. When I was 22 years old, and I just fainted. They're like, "Have you been drinking?" I was like, "Actually, no." This was the first day of the night. And
Wish
they
I
were like-
had been.
I was like, man. So it just was like a bunch of different things were happening. So around 25, I really committed to my path, and I started just, doing my rituals and celebrating my Sabbats and just kind of taking it in. And as I've gotten more and more into it, I was seeing more ghosts. I was capturing more things on my own. And so I met Gina when we have crystal businesses. We have other side hustles, and I met her and saw on her page that she was doing ghost investigations. And I asked if I can come along, and my first one was in April, and I've not stopped since because it's only made my spidey senses stronger.
Right. Hell yeah, that's definitely a good way to get started. I don't know how I'd react to actually being able to see a spirit. I mean, I don't know how I'd react. I'd want to, but at the same time, I'd probably piss myself.
It took years, as you can see. It took years to feel comfortable with it.
Right.
Now, I think a big reason when I was starting to finally like embrace it, I was seeing spirit cats. I was seeing ghost cats.
Oh wow.
And I actually captured one in St. Augustine in the castle tour at Ripley's. I caught a ghost also on my Instagram. But that was what I was seeing, a lot of ghost cats. And I started realizing maybe this is a way that it's starting to make me to get comfortable with at least knowing I see ghosts, they're becoming more active. I had done a really big spiritual cleanse with my Reiki master back in 2021. And after that, I started seeing Archangel Michael like full force. And now my grandmother sits in my living room like nonstop. So once you turn it on, you don't really get to turn it off.
Right. Well, that's pretty wild, and I'm sure it's useful to the rest of the team.
Yeah.
I think that what we're learning, because as the girls are gonna talk as well, they have their own gifts. I think what's really special about our team is that we have a lot of different gifts between all of us, and so the investigations and the evidence that we've been able to collect has been a little bit different beyond what you see in those shows like on Ghost Hunters,
Right.
or the things that we see on like the Travel Channel. We're experiencing different things, and it's almost like a validation to what we're capturing on our EVPs or our millimeters or the laser grids.
Right. All right. So Gina, what about you? What's some personal experiences that kind of got you into this field?
Well, I've always been into paranormal. Even as a kid, I grew up and my parents were very supportive of all the scary movies I wanted to watch. And my dad used to tell me and my little brother all these scary stories that he would make up and sort of like insert us into the story.
Mm-hmm.
And we moved to Florida from New York State when I was about 11 years old. And the house that we moved into, while it wasn't that old, we do think it had some sort of energy in it. There were a couple people that did pass away of natural causes in the house. And I had a couple of experiences that I couldn't explain. And I wasn't really ready to believe that it was paranormal. I always wanted to, I'm always the type of person, I'm trying to find the logical reason why something's happening. So, that was always, where I would fall in that situation. And then I had a really pretty crazy experience in Key West in my first year of college, and I went on a ghost tour, and I had this wild experience where I was feeling residual energy from a fire in a building, and I had no idea that building had burned down several times because as I walked up to it, the tour guide hadn't even started talking yet. And I started asking people around me, hey, do you feel the heat? Do you feel this energy? And some of the people did, some of the people didn't. And then as soon as I had said that, then the tour guide started talking about how that building had burned down. Wow. And after that, I also captured on that same trip, I captured these crazy orbs in a graveyard, these photographs. And this was back before digital cameras. I had the little, disposable cameras,
right.
And I didn't realize it, until I got home from my trip, that in all these pictures in the graveyards, there's faces in the glowing balls of light, and
oh, wow.
There was no eyes, and yeah, it was really neat. So it sort of started me on my path to wanting to know more. And of course, I'm always the one that's the skeptical one. Mm-hmm. When something happens, I'm always trying to figure out if it's actually paranormal or what the potential cause of that situation could be. And I've, I've been doing this for several years now, kind of on and off. And I've actually I've done some ghost hunting in New England area. I've gone to the Lizzie Borden house, Salem.
Nice.
I loved it there. It was amazing. I really recommend everybody to check it out. And I've gone all the way to the West Coast. I've done it in Colorado, all around the US. And I've also done a little in Japan.
Oh, wow.
My husband and I traveled to Japan. We haven't been since COVID, but before COVID, I've been several times, and I've had a couple experiences in Japan as well. So I like to kind of, wherever I go, I look for, the spooky situations to find myself in. And when I join this team, I like to think of my role as, I'm always documenting. I'm always the one who's got my phone out. I'm videoing, I'm recording, I'm taking pictures, and I want to share what we find with everyone, because I think what we do is so important. And I find it truly fascinating to be able to find answers for things that are unknown. And so that's kind of my role in this group in a way. And I'm happy to just be a part of this team. And I think everybody on our team has their own really unique energy that they bring to the room. I know that's been said a couple times, but if anybody's interested in the paranormal, if you're able to buddy up with someone or buddy up with a group of people, I think just from my experience doing it on my own and then finding a group of people, it's much more enjoyable, and it's also safer. Because maybe, we might talk a little bit about some of our experiences, but we found ourselves in some, semi-dangerous situations. And if we didn't have someone with us, it could have been worse. And,
Right.
and, when it comes to hunting for ghosts, if you're, exploring an abandoned place or a dark place, just safety alone, if you get hurt and you're alone, it's bad news. But
Right.
also if you capture something on your camera or something that you evidence, you want to have someone to back you up. So,
Right.
That's one of the greatest things about being on a team is having that, everybody around you to kind of corroborate your story. Everybody saw the same thing. You're not crazy.
Right.
And also, like everybody brings their own unique gifts to the table. So.
Oh yeah, that's awesome as well. And so now I'm going to jump to Callie, even though on here it says Ghost Hunter Barbie. I got to ask about that first. What's up with that name?
That's just my Instagram handle. I mean, I'm basically Beach Barbie by day, Ghost Hunter by night now. That's kind of what it is. And my name's Callie, but that's just the handle I use for my Zoom meeting now, because it's the only thing that I've done on Zoom, actually, because I kind of keep a low profile. I don't have I just kind of just hang out at the beach.
I got you.
Beach girl.
So what's some of the stuff you've experienced and that kind of got you into this, and what do you bring to the team?
Well, I have been, I guess, gifted or cursed, however you want to put it, because some people consider it a gift and some people call it a curse. And in some situations it's a gift and some it's a curse. Since I was little, ever since I can remember, like ever since I can remember, I've had so many, I see, I'm also clairvoyant and claircognizant, and it's almost like I know something, like without, like, I'm almost never wrong. I know that sounds really crazy, but like I know things are gonna happen, or I mean, it's so sometimes so clear that I can write down. I used to test this with one of my friends. I would test the theory. I would tell her, she would come back from trips and say like, oh my gosh, you'll never believe what happened. And I was like, well, before you left, I was going to tell you this and that. So I started writing down things that were going to happen while she was gone. She would go to California, for example. This is probably like 10 years ago now, but she would go to California to visit her family, and I would write down things that were going to happen before, like, as I knew, like, saw them happening. And I even got down to where I could write down what clothes they were wearing.
Oh, wow.
Like even before. So I've since a little girl, I've always seen ghosts, shadow people, sometimes full on people, like where there was a little boy until recently that I've seen since I was little. My mom used to see him too. It's kind of a family thing. My grandmother used to work with Ouija with me. So I would do a lot of like Ouija board stuff with her as a younger kid. So like I didn't really, and actually both of my grandmothers were into Ouija, funny enough. Just one was very light and one was just not as light. you know? So I'm more of like what is like metaphysical guides, is that what it is? More like it's about like more than all the electronic stuff. And I don't really work so well. Electronics, my TVs will do weird things, lights flicker even in my house
Right.
constantly. I've had a lot of crazy like one-on-one spirit experiences, especially like in my grandparents' house growing up. When I would go visit them every summer, I would go to Pittsburgh, and that's kind of, once again, my grandmother would almost every night we would do Ouija. And I remember one of the first things that I ever saw with, like, besides the little boy in my house, the first thing I ever saw was with my grandmother. Sorry, somebody just came in my house. It was with my grandmother. I would hear her talking downstairs at night after we would do Ouija. And she always played like it was a game. It wasn't like, it was just a game, like we played like it was a game. But now, as I'm getting more into this, I'm understanding what she was doing. And then like later on in the night, I would hear her downstairs talking, and I would be like, I would tell my papa, like, I hear grandma down there talking to somebody. I was scared to look. I was always so scared to look. And he would tell me, he's like, oh no, whatever. And she would chant, and then she would talk, and I went and look, and she would rub this old lady's back on the couch. And so I would tell him that, and he was like, no, it's just, you were dreaming or whatever. But come to find out, as I got older, it was my great grandmother that she would, and I physically saw this lady laying on the couch and her rubbing this lady's back. And everybody
Wow.
thought I was crazy as a kid. Like, no. And there was a guy in the cellar that I would talk about that would, like, when I'd open the door, talk about this bald-headed guy in the cellar. And they were like, like, they just acted like I was kind of like not with it when I was little, like something was wrong with me, But then as I got older and talked to my grandmother more about it, she would explain, and it all started making sense. Like, oh no, that was Bubba. That was her grandma. That was her mother. So she was like real with me as I got older about it. And then it's just kind of, I took Gina actually got me one day. I've known Gina for a very long time, and Gina one day was like, hey, you want to go on this ghost event? And I was like, sure, why not? Like, it wasn't really something I was like, I feel like when you're clairvoyant or any of that, you somehow, like Christina said, you kind of are either scared of it, or you think you might be crazy, or
Right.
you think people are gonna think you're crazy, so you kind of just don't fuck with it. You know what I mean? You just don't. And then as you get more around more people that are more open to it, and especially like Christina said, the more you get into it, like, the more you start seeing, and the more you start realizing, and the more just the clearer things get. So I went with Gina on this investigation, and it was one of Tim's old teams that we went on. And for me, I am the person, like you said in the beginning, how if somebody you go on and they don't tell you anything, and you're just walking around, and
Right.
they may hand you a K2, and you're just like, okay, I see some dots. This
Right.
is to me, that's stupid.
Right.
And Gina's like, you've not been on any tours like that, so you're not used to that. So for me,
Mhm.
I'm like, who would pay to go do that? That's dumb, because I went to Tim's. The very first thing I ever went to was Tim's thing. And Tim sat there and explained he had all these cool tools, things I'd never even seen. Gina was geeking out over certain things, and he's like, oh yeah, you can touch it and play with it. We're like, oh my God, we can touch this? What? This is an obelisk. She's telling me, oh, that's this. And we walk out with the obelisk, and the first thing, it's like, Schoolhouse. We're like, oh my God, we're riding with me. It was like crazy. We were like geeking so hard,
Right.
And it was because of that, because it wasn't just some boring ass tour where you just go on and hold a K2 meter and they just walk around. They want to be like a superstar. I've noticed on a couple events that I've went to with other things, they want to be like, it's more of like, they want to be like, da 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 da, we're so cool. And it's like, yeah, you're cool, but like, hey, can I be cool too? Can I touch something? Can I play with something? You know what I mean? So that's the only way that I wanted to do it. That's why I was interested in it, because then I started going on a couple other investigations afterwards that maybe weren't with, like, Tim, for example. To me, he's like a mentor, right? Because he's really, for me, what really got me super like into this, and even back into my clairvoyancy, and even going back to my lineage with my family and stuff. So I think I'm very like Christina and I are a lot alike, but we're also a lot different as far
Right.
as what we do. And I think we're probably the two on the team that are very um like mediums, clairvoyant. I mean, I guess it's, I don't really consider myself a medium so much.
I don't consider myself so much a medium either, but it's definitely we do things on like a, I don't want to use the word spiritual, but it's just like
Yes.
it's a metaphysical, it's just a different outlook on it, I guess.
Right.
Is the best way to
And
put it.
instead of it always being the electronics and the the DRs are great. We love the DRs, don't get me wrong, but the
Love a
DRs for
good
me, it's I mean, I'm a dowsing rod, Ouija board, like I'm that stuff really works with me. I'm very into the spiritual. Like I said, I'm a beach girl. Every morning I go to the beach, I watch the sunrise, I meditate. I'm very into the earth, and that is why I feel like I'm very in tune with that. So I think I bring that aspect of it to the table. Like if we're doing Estes, for example,
Mm-hmm.
if Gina's doing an Estes session, at one in particular we were doing, I could hear, like I remember telling Christina, like I can hear what Gina's going to say before she says it almost.
Oh, wow.
So like while Gina's in Estes, if Christina asks a question, right as Gina's about to say it, I can almost hear, not almost, I do hear what she's saying. And at first I'm like, this is kind of new for me this whole year. This is new. So I'm asking them like, is it kind of weird that I hear something, or is this what I want to hear? Or is this really what
Right.
it is? Or so we kind of, I think we're all skeptics in a way sometimes, and we all kind of try to debunk all that. And that's where the
Mhm.
difference in the electronic and then the metaphysical come, that's where we,
I got you.
yeah.
Well, it sounds like so far all three you three of you ladies bring some really unique stuff to the team. So, Tim, how did you
Yeah.
kind of get into this, and how did you kind of get started in the paranormal?
I'm a retired medic, and I was a medic. I was a street medic in Miami,
Oh,
and then
wow.
I worked in the largest teaching hospital where we had the trauma center, and so I saw a lot of death over the years.
I'm sure.
And I never had grandma standing over my bed and nothing like that. It was just one day I just started thinking, there's got to be something more than plunking someone in the ground.
Right.
And I think once you open yourself up for that, just of the possibility, because after that, every now and then I would have to take a body down to the morgue or things like that. And from then on, I thought I was being watched more.
Mm-hmm.
My hair actually got curled a couple times. I thought the guys were goofing on me, but no one was around. So then after that, I said, it went from, I wonder, no, it was like, there's got to be something more to, now I want to know why they're here and how we can help maybe get a message out. Or as I got more into it, it was like, how can we help them move on if they want to? So that's why people like the ladies are important, because, if you go to a place over and over and over and you don't try to help them move on or offer it, then they just become circus animals for the
Right.
guests to come see. So I think you need to do your part to help them move on if you can. And we've moved people on. We do a lot of privates, we do residentials, businesses, all that kind of stuff. We help people move on. But I think that's part of your responsibility too.
Right.
Because even when I first started, my teams before, back when we had tape recorders and, Sony one-shot night shots,
Mm-hmm.
evidence was hard to come by. So it was like, I never let anybody say the word dead or passed during the investigation. Because, if they go, oh my God, I'm dead, I move on. It was kind of like a little selfish moment. Say, let's get some evidence and then we'll help them move on.
Right.
So it's
Right.
but at the end of the night, I would always say, can we help you move on? Is there anything we can do? Can you move on? I always ask, can you move on? Or are you stuck in this area? And just to see, because I think that's your responsibility too. They're
Right.
not here to be, entertainment.
Right. And a lot of people do look at it that way. I mean, look at all these different shows and stuff you have. So,
Yeah.
and I mean, that's a good way to look at it too, from your perspective. All right. So,
Yeah, and-
Aaron, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, good. Hey, Aaron.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
All right, you're doing pretty good. Glad to meet you. So kind of how did you kind of get started in the paranormal? What kind of stuff did you experience to kind of get you down this path?
I'm an Army brat, so I've lived on Army bases, the better part of my childhood.
Right.
And I've had experiences in them, specifically on the Army base in Avon, Kentucky. We would hear footprints. It used to be an old infirmary that they turned into housing, and we would hear footprints all the time. We would hear voices. While me and my brother shared a room, my father would come in thinking that we would be playing in the middle of the night because he would hear a lot of like knocking around stuff. Things would move. His M16 that he kept in the closet would fall down.
Oh,
And then, growing up, I mean, when I came to move to Florida, I spent some time in St. Pete, and I lived in Old St. Pete, and I've had a few experiences there as well. A few years ago, a friend of mine that I work with, we bought some recorders and we just started going out and just finding places.
right.
He ended up finding another group. We joined that group for a while, and I'm with Tim and the ladies here, and I think this is a great group. We do a lot of great investigating. When we do publics, the ladies here talk to our clients like very great. It's a dramatic difference from my previous experiences.
Right.
It's important that the ladies came from investigations
Mm-hmm.
because
All
now
of
they
us
know
did.
now, they know the value that the guest value in an investigation. Like to me, if you don't let someone hold a piece of equipment, it's like fishing with the captain, and he goes, "Hey, I'm getting a nibble." Well, hey, tell me what that feels like because I don't have a pole.
Right.
So, but they know the value of that, and they bring it so freely, and it's genuine, and it's good for the guest, and of course, it's good for the locations. And the locations, it's always fundraisers, so it's good all around, and it's just like you said, it's just grassroots investigating.
Right.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
That was something kind of when Gina and I first started investigating, because like I said, we would go, we went, I don't even know how many that we went to together. Like how Aaron said, him and like they just bought recorders and went and found spots, but Gina and I would find these events to go to. And that's something when we decided to join or help form this team, was that we wanted to make sure that people, like, we took the good parts of it that we loved and things that we were like, oh, this could be tweaked, or like the things that we thought, like the things that we love so much about it, because it's such a unique experience to be able to use all the tools that we have, because we have a lot of tools thanks to, I mean, everybody on the team, but Tim has, I mean, man, you name it, he's got it. So we've got plenty of tools, and it's so cool to see, like, even like we just went to like share with the railroad one day, just to go share stuff, and just to see these little girls, like these two little girls sitting at the spirit box, like they have bounce houses out there, they got train rides, they've got all these things, I mean, those girls were probably 8 and 10 maybe, and they literally kept telling their parents, like, we're going back to that cart to talk, and they went to talk to the Devon's box. Well, there's only one Devon's box in the whole entire world, so
Right.
it was such a cool experience to watch those little girls, like, and they're asking questions like, do you have hair, like, and you're like, you never even think about that, but like things like that are so cool to see. Or like this one boy, I let him use my dowsing rods. I have a really badass set of dowsing rods, and so he asked if he could use them, and like when they're kind of working for him a little bit, but they're like tied to me. They're tied to my energy. Right. So I spoke to him. I'm like, can you come follow me to the back of the cart? And he's like sitting there. He's really trying real hard, and they move. And he's like, Mom. So like stuff like that is so, like, I feel like rewarding, something that I wouldn't have even thought was rewarding, because on the DL, like, I don't have children. It's not my bag. So for me, that was so rewarding, even seeing these kids could go be doing all this stuff at this train station, and they're here in our cart just to talk, letting us talk about this stuff. Like, how cool is that? You know what I mean? Yeah. So Yeah.
That's awesome. Y'all guys are experiencing some future paranormal investigators. What you're doing?
We've 100%.
Sure are.
We'll see you in 10 years on our team. What's happening?
Yeah, yeah. All right, so there's a total of 99 of you guys. Tell me a little bit about the rest of your the teammates that didn't get to make it on the show.
Who wants to tell? Tim?
Yeah, I'll tell. We got Heidi and Kimberly. They are a mother-daughter team. They were cute. They used to come to events, and they got so into it that they started buying each other ghost hunting stuff for Christmas and birthdays. That's all they do now. Heidi's sweet. She, the cat balls that everybody buys now, the little motion.
Loves her cat balls, man. Loves her cat balls.
Heidi loves her cat balls.
And she just bought a tripwire. That's the new rage.
Oh, she
yes.
did buy the
Yes,
tripwire.
yes, yes. She did buy a tripwire.
I'm excited for her tripwire.
Nice.
too.
And then I think Kimberly just got a portal from across the pond.
Oh
Kind of
wow!
like the Devon's
So-
box a little bit, right? Like it's kind of
Yeah.
like the Devon's box.
Yeah.
Kimberly's also a little sensitive. I remember that April investigation that we did in the King Camaraderie, and we both felt the same thing when he came up the stairs when we were in the bathroom doing that Estes, when Gina was doing the Estes.
Yeah.
So she's a little sensitive too.
All right.
But and that's the thing too. You will find that when you're around more people like that, that your clairvoyancy or sensitive, whatever you want to call it, it comes out more.
Right.
Like I think Gina is too. I think Gina's just not experienced. Like I was talking to her the other day. Like you have some of that. Like she said earlier about the house that had burnt or whatever. Then she knew that before anybody said anything. You know what I mean? Like. I think you kind of almost for the most part have to be almost a little sensitive.
Yeah, I do, but I want concrete.
I know you want.
I was gonna say she's got that skepticism. She wants
She wants it on the DR to come across and say,
Right.
"Hello, Gina. Yes, this is me, the old cranky man at Cromartie."
Oh, we have to mention shout out to Linda.
Yeah, and Linda
Our
Dwyer.
yes.
Yeah,
So Linda actually led us on a really cool investigation a couple months back. And we went to a site where a lot of people perished during Hurricane Andrew.
Oh
And
goodness.
it's basically just this like open field.
Mm-hmm.
And you would never know it was there because, it's just like a construction site now.
Right.
And we got some really cool evidence. And these entities were talking to her. And, she was so intuitive to know exactly where to go. And we got some of the most compelling evidence, in my opinion, that we've captured as a team. And it was all thanks to Linda. And
they were
also
talking directly to her. Like, they said her name, like the spirits were talking directly to Linda. Didn't she used to live there? Is that what it was? She lived in that area?
It was an old trailer. It was an old trailer park that got caught up in Andrew, and I think 80 or something people died at it.
Damn.
But I've known Linda for years, and she's always been an amazing investigator. And I was glad to ask her to come along. And like I said, everybody just meshes and gels so well.
And then we have Ingrid too. Ingrid has been pretty busy. She's given us some really, really hot spots that we have that we've hit up too. Even over the weekend. I think is she the one that gave us the cemetery that we went to, I think, right? Yeah.
And Ingrid's been doing
crazy.
this for probably 15 years.
Oh wow.
So I've known her for over 30 years because we used to work rescue together.
Right.
So
Which is great to have on the team. So we've got two people that have been in rescue. So whenever we get locked inside of a house and someone gets sick, we've got medical right there for us. So
There you go. That's always a positive to have. So
that has happened. That
Oh,
has
man.
that has
definitely
happened.
I bring a jump bag to every event. I've used it a few times on the guests, on team members,
right.
because you never know.
That's right. You really don't. And but we've had a couple instances on our investigations where we thought we was going to have to end the night and run to the hospital, but fortunately for us, it didn't turn out like that. So now you guys are based out of South Florida, so I know Gina, you said you've traveled all around, and Tim, I'm sure you have. But as a team, you guys travel out of state for investigations.
We haven't
We
yet.
haven't yet.
I think
Yeah.
next year we're really gonna try. I think we've been just trying to get our
Team
bearings
build,
as a
really.
team. Yeah, team
Right.
building, doing our home bases right now. And I think next year starting fresh, because I think we've all been talking about it. We've been like itching and talking and just really bringing up other areas than home base right now.
And
Right.
even
Yeah.
even not out of state so much, but we were talking just today, right, about doing next month, trying to do an
Lewiston.
overnight. Lewiston,
Yeah.
Right.
The cool thing, going back to the sensitivity and all that, is, I wrote a book on how to do this, and I've been lecturing this for so many years. And I tell everybody, your hardest spot is a sensitive to fill, to find a real one. Seems like I've had a couple, and I notice I'm not sensitive, but I notice when they're together, they kind of grow. They help. One grows to another, and then one ends up protecting another, per se.
for sure. I think that's
With
with me
the
and Christina
levels.
for sure. For
Right.
sure.
Oh yeah, like when I went when we talk about that experience, I was the person who got sick in our August event. And when I went back for our September event, I went in like imagining that I was Callie. Like I literally was like, this
I give you
spirit
that
is
bad
not gonna
energy.
mess with me. I like walked in there like I was the only person in the room. Not that I don't do that,
You
but
have
we
to.
do have different personalities. And I literally was like, oh no. I walked into the back kitchen where like I had
No,
felt
I
his
gave you
spirit
that
the first
energy,
time.
girl. I was handing it to
And
you.
I
like,
said,
take
no,
it.
sir. Like, I was like channeling my inner Callie.
because that was like that's like the difference I feel like with Christina and I is that like, well, I have a few years on her, but besides that, it's that like our personalities, like, there is nothing I'm afraid of in the paranormal. There's nothing there's nothing I'm afraid of. I'm not afraid anything's gonna come home with me. I don't think anything's gonna attach to me. I'm not afraid. There's nothing. I have the energy of like, come at me, man. Like, come at me. That's the energy I have. Now, I don't taunt, but my mindset is, what can you do? Like, what can you do to me? Like, the old man in the Cromartie house, like, my mindset is like, what, you gonna make me sick? Like, okay. Like, I laugh at him, right? Like, and I don't, it's not out of disrespect. It's out of, he thinks he's so mean. Like, every time we walk in there, I swear, we set up, Gina puts in a brand new freaking battery in a REM pod every single time now we go. And he drains that bitch every single time to fuck with Christina. I swear that's the reason he does it.
I went there in
reason that man
September with
does
a
that.
whole different mindset. I was like, I dare you to do what you did last time. Like I went there with a whole different mindset. And it's like, I can get afraid of things, but I'm someone who like when I get out of, when I'm done, I come home and I do a cleanse. Like I'm very big with my crystals and my herbs and my full moon and new moon rituals. Like I'm into all that. That's part of my practice and my mantra. So yeah, when I go home, I'm cleansing myself. I'm doing my own little thing
Right.
just because it makes me have a better peace of mind. But after that experience in August of us getting locked in a house that there was no way it was going to be locked, and then I got sick, I went back in September and I said, I'm Callie. There's nothing.
We're twins, Barbie twins. What?
Nothing is coming for me. And I walked right into that kitchen and said, look at me right now. We're not playing this game. And it was definitely a different energy for September. I'm excited for our event on this Sunday.
Oh, I'm so excited for that event. It's going to be so great. And Christina also offers to cleanse the guests like before they leave. Like Christina always offers to cleanse if some guests want to. Some guests are really into it. Some guests don't care. But Christina always offers to help cleanse them as well.
No, that's a good idea too, because you don't want to take the risk of something actually attaching to somebody either. So
right.
And we don't, it's not like we we don't like full on say like, oh, but there was like on the September event, I had a girl come up to me and ask like, do you ever get scared that someone's going to latch on? And for her sake, I was like, no, but if it makes you feel better, I do have some Palo Santo and I have like a cleansing spray and I do Reiki. And she was like, do you mind? I was like, no. I was like, and so then I offered up to the group and 6 of them ended up wanting a cleanse. So it's just something for peace of mind. It's, just to make them feel better when they go home. And I mean, at the end of the day, it also makes you feel good. I feel like I
Right.
sleep better after a cleanse.
Oh, I'm sure. And so, y'all are saying starting next year, y'all going to try to travel out of Florida. If y'all happen to come up here to Tennessee,
I'm
one-
from
Okay.
Tennessee.
are you? What part?
I grew up in Piney Flats, but that's near the racetrack and near Bristol.
Okay, okay.
And my
So-
daddy lives in, so when I come to visit, which I'm going next month, is like Knoxville area.
Okay. Well, the place I'm fixing to recommend is about 45 minutes from Knoxville.
Bushy,
No, it's not Brushy Mountain.
Brushy Mountain though. Where's it?
It's in Scott County.
Okay.
It's the historic Scott County Jail.
Okay, I'm literally writing that down right now.
Write it
We love a
down.
jail.
We're going.
We've,
We're going.
my team's been there twice, and we captured probably the craziest shit at that jail. And I'll send the link out to you guys here when we get
Okay,
done.
then I'm writing down.
Amazing.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yes, I'm so down.
I don't want
I've gone up
to.
there
What's
to
that?
investigate. I've been to Patsy and Loretta Lynn's place.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Tim's from Tennessee too.
My
Sorry,
dad
Tim,
lived
I
up
put you
by
out there like
my
that.
dad lived up by Parsons near Jackson, around
Okay.
Jackson. there.
Okay.
Uh,
Well, that's cool. Got a
That's
couple.
awesome to hear. Yeah. What part of Tennessee are you from?
Of,
That area?
yeah. No, I'm about 40 miles west of Nashville, so I'm
My
kind of
sister lives in Nashville.
Oh,
Okay,
really?
I went to
Oh,
yeah, I
wow.
went to college in that area.
All right. But
Yeah, my sister went to Belmont Law, and she said, "I'm never leaving."
but yeah, this jail, it's been open for right at about a year now for investigations, and it's been the most active place we've been, and we've been doing this as a team for about 2.5 years, and that's been the most active place we've been, and man,
Some pretty crazy stuff.
I mean, everything from disembodied voices to hearing doors slammed to actually seeing shit fly off the wall.
That's crazy.
That's always a good thing. See that?
I actually love to see shit fly. I don't know what my problem is. I'm
Well,
like,
then
excited.
you'll really get a kick out of the video I'm going to send to you guys. So
Oh, for sure.
Oh, I
I'm
can't
so
wait.
into it.
so
The-
so
we've actually been to the. Oh,
sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
We've actually been to the Belglade. We used to investigate the Belglade prison.
Uh-huh.
Kind of like close to Lake Okeechobee, and that was the first time I've ever had a recording say my first and last name.
Oh wow.
Damn.
Oh, I just got
Wow.
chills. Stop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
'cause,
And
Aaron
thankfully-
is known for getting very good EVPs on the DR60.
He is.
Wow.
That gets the best. Aaron, you have to take us there because I want to go there. I've not been there yet.
you
It's
can't.
a
Oh,
apartment
Lathe,
now.
that prison's only like 40 minutes from
Oh.
my house out here.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
it's apartments now.
Yeah, they
Oh,
It's
Some
a very
kids-
bad area.
yeah. Some
Oh.
kids broke in there and burnt the church down. Then the feds took over security and they sold the property.
oh
Oh,
man.
wow.
But that place was like off the hook. That was like,
Uh,
we'd have shadow people just standing there.
I
Damn.
wonder
Yeah.
if there's in Pahokee. So, like, if you go a little bit further out of Belle Glade, there's Pahokee, Florida, and Muck City. And there, if it's still out there, it might. But we used to go as kids. There's an abandoned hospital. I mean, most of the stuff in Pahokee is like ran down, but there's an abandoned hospital. And I'm pretty sure it's just like in a field. I wonder
And
if,
the- We'd be
It's
able
on
to
your
get
way
into
to
Pahokee,
Tluston.
nobody cared. The Pahokee's
oh, I
just-
know, and that's what I'm saying. It's on the way to Tluston. It's
I
out
love
that way.
Pahokee, actually.
But when I started doing this, I traveled to Savannah, New Orleans,
Mm-hmm.
not for tours, but to do houses because there weren't teams back in the 25 years ago.
Right.
So people would call, say, my child's having problems. Can you come up here and where you live? Savannah. Well, all right. What the hell? So back in those days, you had to travel a lot because there just
Right.
there weren't that many teams around.
Right.
So especially with a child case, we would just, I'd go anywhere.
Yeah.
I wouldn't jump on planes as per se, but
Right. I got you. And Aaron saying you had your first and last name said at that jail I was just telling you guys about.
Yeah.
Last year when we went, it was just me and my co-founder, and when we went back here a couple of weeks ago during the Estes method, both of our names came through.
Whoa.
Wow.
And
Right.
you know, so we was trying to, we was trying to interact with whoever knocked this picture off the wall last year, and it popped out, said his name, said my name, and it was pretty wild. And whoever we was interacting with at that point apparently doesn't like Christian music because we was playing Christian music, and I started getting like I started getting sick to my stomach.
It's
Oh.
making you sick, giving you
Yeah.
a Christina
Oh,
feeling.
And I was like,
man.
man, and so
Yeah,
South
bring
Florida.
a Publix bag with you. I
Right.
tell you, I keep
Right.
one in
We
my
lo-
bag now.
we learned that. We
Right.
learned that.
So what's some of the most haunted places in South Florida that you guys have been to, whether it's been as a team investigating or doing an event? What's some of the most haunted places down there?
There's like, there's a place, Gold Coast Railroad. It's a train museum, but it's actual trains. It's like, it has a World War II medical car, Class A travel car, actually a segregation car. And I've gotten stuff there for years, and every car has its own little history.
Right.
There's a schoolhouse, Old Navy Schoolhouse. That place is that, and a lot of people that even guests will ask us, "Well, do you have to be there at night?" Because the places we do, they're very proud of their hauntings. So if
Right.
anybody like paid the little tour fee and they break out a recorder, no one cares.
Right.
So we promote that. That way, the location makes more money down the road.
Yeah.
And they always have that thing, was it day or night? And I'm like, I've gotten a math teacher at the school at 11 in the morning. I've gotten a boy in the medical car at the Gold Coast at 1 in the afternoon. It's just, I always tease them. I go, ghosts don't wear watches and keep appointments. It really doesn't matter when.
Right.
But there's probably 8 to 10 places down here that are real. And it surprises people when they hear South Florida is that active.
Right.
You got to remember, we've been around, the Tequestan Indians were here 5,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So everything's
Also-
built on a dead Indian somewhere.
Right.
Also, I want to hop into that real quick. I've been a little quiet, but the whole state is built on coral. There's also limestone, and many people believe, if you've ever heard of tape theory, that those type of materials can be conductors of energy that can kind of trap residual
Right.
energy and hauntings, and not to mention we're surrounded by water on all sides, which is something that is an energizing force. And if you look at a lot of haunted places, there's always, not maybe always, but more oftentimes than not, there is a body of water close by.
Right.
And our entire state is surrounded by water. So you've got energy, you've got, there's lots of minerals, beneath our feet that are, charging these things. And there's even though our state is relatively young in comparison to some other places, we do have pockets of historical areas that, maybe, in Miami, we've got around Key West and even in Coral Gables.
Augustine,
And then
you
you
go
have
all the way
St.
up.
Augustine. Yeah, you've got St. Pete. You've got
Bob.
places that do have, rich history.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, most of our state is relatively, since the 1960s, 1970s is when, things really started booming around here.
Right.
But there were still, things happening, and there are some really haunted places if you know where to look.
Right. Well, I know St. Augustine is on my wife's bucket list, and now just for
Gotta
the
go.
parent.
I try to go once a year. It's literally my fave. That's where I saw my first ghost.
List of recommendations there if you want
Fine.
anything, food,
Well,
drinks.
Actually, I think it might be on the docket for us right, next year, just like as a vacation. And
It's worth it.
I know curiosity will get the best of us, and we'll want to check out like the lighthouse and all that stuff. So just for the paranormal part, but so
And I did a lot of that stuff in St. Augustine before I even knew anything paranormal. Like I didn't even know, to be honest, I don't watch any of the shows.
Right.
Just since I started doing this, I watch Ghost Brothers, hey, because they're actually in Tampa tonight. I was so upset. There was another group that was going there tonight, and I was like, I'm so jealous. And they were like, well, we didn't make it because there was an accident. We didn't get to go. I'm like, oh, I feel so bad now. But that's the only show that I even watched. So I didn't even know what a DR was. I didn't watch any shows. I didn't know anything like that. But like I happened to go, my ex and I are both very sensitive. So we ended up in St. Augustine in a couple spots, and there's a fort there. You all know whatever it's, you know, the fort.
Or
Escondido de
That-
los Marcos.
You can feel like I was like, you can just feel like I didn't do any ghost hunting. There was nothing before I ever did it. But that day, like, and there actually are some orbs and stuff in those photos that I took during the day, actually,
Wow.
at that spot. And that was like during COVID. There's a lot of weird history with that spot too, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, St. Augustine, it was founded in 1536 by Ponce de Leon and his team. That area, obviously, there's been, Indians. I'm Florida State, so Seminole tribe has been around for a long time. So Florida has like a lot of history in general, but I mean, St. Augustine, like when it comes down to it, like it was founded, 1536. It's got major history out there. That fort still stands strong and prideful. It's beautiful. I mean, that has to be on everyone's bucket list, in my opinion. If you're going to come to Florida, you should definitely always stop at least in St. Augustine.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So
I do want to,
go
I know
ahead.
that you had asked about South Florida though.
Yeah.
I did want to call out just one place because it's 10 minutes from my house and I've been going to it my entire life. I live in West Palm, which is about an hour north of Fort Lauderdale.
Mhm.
There's a location at the South Florida Fairgrounds called the Riddle House.
I've heard of
been
that.
there. I've been there like so many times since I was a kid. We used to go on field trips when I was like in elementary school. I used to always get weird energy. There was one time, like I think it was when I was either 19 or 20, I was doing the ghost tour at the time there. I physically was like not allowed to come into the house. Like there was a force that was like absolutely not. So that is one place that I always put as a very haunted location for me.
Oh wow.
And I always go visit it every year for the South Florida Fair just because there was one time where I was 1000% not welcome to walk into the house. And I said, okay, not today. And I always put that one down. I put that as a major location for South Florida.
All right. I've definitely heard of that place. So to each one of you, what's like your favorite piece of equipment other than like your senses and your abilities and stuff like that?
Me, dowsing rods, 100%.
All right.
Dowsing rods. I do love doing Estes too, but I would say dowsing rods are like, you're going to always catch me with my dowsing rod. I'm shocked they're
Right.
not right here right now.
I like doing the Estes too, but I love grabbing the obelisk.
You love the obelisk.
I
yeah.
love the obelisk.
All right, Gina, what about you?
I would actually have to say, and it's a simple piece of equipment, but just something for EMF. My favorite is the Melmeter,
Right.
and I really find that particular tool. I have the basic kind where it just tells you EMF and temperature.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the kind. I know some people on the team have this style that also has a REM pod inside of it. But what I really appreciate with that is, especially if you're looking around at an area for the first time, is if you notice a spike in EMF and in temperature, that is something that's not very normal, very
Right.
typical. And to give you, when you use that tool and you locate that spot, that is a nice way for you to hone in on where the energy might be. And then
Right.
you can kind of use your other equipment. But I've sort of found through my years, I always had a K2 before I got the Melmeter. And I always, walk around with that tool first and then do the rest of my investigating. And I feel like my investigating would not be to the level it is if I didn't have a EMF detector. So that's what I'm gonna go with.
All right. Aaron, what about you?
My favorite is when Tim brings out the portal or the Devon box. That is my favorite.
Right.
So the girls have been talking about the Estes,
Uh-huh.
the Estes sessions. I've only actually seen these girls are the first time I've ever seen it, and it was pretty awesome. I think I've only seen them do it once, and that actually blew my mind.
It is pretty wild to witness it firsthand.
Yeah.
Especially when the answers they're spitting out are lining up with whatever's being asked.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild, man. So Tim, what about you? What's your favorite piece?
Oh, I have a few DR60s that I love.
All right.
A few.
A
He
few.
probably owns the most in the country.
A few.
A few.
And then the Devon box is some guy made it and he won't make another one. So it's a one of a kind. It's a enclosed portal, but
Okay.
it really gets some cool stuff.
All
It's
right.
Everybody
not-
loves it.
I like the Mel meter too because it gives you a digital readout. It's just more of a specific for investigation, for documenting.
Right.
You know, it's better.
Always-
Oh, we got a red on the K meter, or the REM pod went off. The Mel meter is great
It gives
because
you numbers and I didn't want to interrupt Gina either, but the other day I just bought a Ouija board from 1919
Mm.
and I hadn't opened it yet. And Gina and I had just got back from a cemetery that we stumbled upon. Leslie Nielsen's grave. We were so excited. Just hanging out in the cemetery with our mail meters, what? And dowsing rods. Like, can you please point me to the cremarities? But I would come home that evening, and that evening I had decided, and I didn't even realize it was the 22nd, by the way. The number 22's come up so many times this year, and my birthday's on the 22nd anyhow. But that was on the 22nd, and I hadn't opened it yet. And I ordered it on the 2nd. This board went all around the freaking country before I got it. Kind of got lost. We had its own little adventure before it got here.
Mm.
When it got here, it stayed wrapped. I didn't even unpack it 18, 19, 20, 20 for 4 days, which was crazy because I was super excited about getting it.
Right.
So that evening I come in and my bag is on the table. I go decide I'm going to unbox it, and I'm going to do like have my friend like take some video so I can do like a reel or something of it. So I sat it on the table, and I'm telling you, immediately when I sat it on the table, my bag was on the table, closed, zipped up. I just left Gina's house, and my mail meter starts going off in my bag, like going off, like I hear beep, and I'm like, oh, there's a mail meter going off. Like, because sometimes it'll happen when I open it, it was lit up, like the backlight was lit up, and it was like spiking 37%. And my phone, immediately I put on airplane mode so I could video it, right? As soon as I touched it, it went off, and I'm like, okay. So I had the video ready to go, and I think I put it up on Instagram, where as soon as my mail meter touched, it wasn't even the board, it was the packaging on the board, the spike was like 34 or 37, like 0.34, 0.37 immediately. So I have to agree with Gina on the mail that like it does tell you. And as I was unboxing, I had the mail sitting beside it, and you'd watch it spike like 0.55 down to the 30s, back up and down. It's pretty crazy. So
Wow.
she's right. The mail meter's a really good tool. I totally didn't even think of both of you mentioned the mail, but that's really one of the best tools we have.
And you spoke on the Ovilus back again at the historic Scott County Jail last year. This thing was literally directing us to read a certain article that was hanging on the wall. Like
Really?
It was spitting out words, and like none of it was making any sense at the time. And then I got to looking at one of these articles hanging on the wall, and I was like, it just said that word. You know, it wasn't like your typical normal everyday words. And I was like,
Right.
wait, it just said that word. It said this word. It said that. I was like, dude, I think it's wanting us to read this fucking article. And
That's wild.
so we started reading this article. It was about a woman who had been murdered, and ever since then, the ladies that oversee the jail said they have a lot of those kind of weird coincidences about that same article, and now they've kind of put a whole what's the word I'm looking for? I guess big display about this certain murder, and because they've had so much stuff go on about this particular murder, and it was just really weird because a lot of people don't buy into the Ovilus, but I'm
Right.
like, this fucking thing was directing us to read this article. I was like, I believe it 100%. So
If you go back, you should. I wonder if that's what they wanted. Like, I wonder if that spirit was coming through to make sure that people knew what happened to her.
I mean,
And
it's
so
possible.
now that it's like a story on display, like now
Mhm.
everyone knows. I wonder if that brought some peace of mind to her, or
It's possible.
made her
It's
feel
quite
better.
possible. So so to each one of you guys, what's the top location on your paranormal bucket list
We've been to or we want to go?
you want to go to that you haven't been to yet?
Okay.
Whoever
don't
wants to
really
go
I don't
first.
even know.
I don't
I have
really-
so many.
yeah,
I
I
have
don't-
so many.
I don't really know a lot of places. I don't really research stuff like that. I just kind of go wherever our team goes, or wherever I just end up. But I really definitely want to go to St. Augustine.
Hell yeah.
I'll go with the one that's been most likely giving me like calling, but I've been getting like nonstop like videos and things of Robert the Doll in Key West.
Ooh.
I really
do
want to
wanna
go
go
see
there.
Robert the Doll. That one's just been like, it's been coming through like this whole month of October. I'll go with that one. That will be my one for right now because I have so many.
Right.
I'm actually afraid to go there.
You
Mhm.
are.
Right.
I've heard too many things about it. I'm actually kind of
I saw that there's rules. There's rules. You have to like ask him if you can
Yeah.
take his video. You know, there's like
Really?
rules to it. Yeah, I've been seeing
Yeah.
that there's like rules that you have to like ask for his permission to videotape or take his photo. And if you don't, bad things will happen to you.
Right. See, I just we just watched that little documentary on Discovery Plus with Cindy Kaza a couple weeks ago, and like I'd heard about Robert the Doll, but I was like, oh, it's just another one of these doll stories or whatever. But then I'm actually watching this thing, and I'm like, man, this is some crazy shit. And I wish I knew she had done that documentary before I had her on the show, because I would have asked her about it. But it was pretty wild. So Tim, what about you? What's like the top place you'd like to visit?
That Myrtles in Louisiana.
Oh yeah,
Myrtle
yeah,
Plantation.
hell yeah.
Good one.
Gina, what
Um,
about you?
This is a really hard question, and I am going to give you my first, but I want to say I have a top three, but I would say my number one place I want to go is the Winchester Mystery House,
Oh yeah,
and that is Sarah Winchester's mansion that she built with all the secret passageways and
Mhm.
secret rooms and
and the
passageways.
and the doors that lead to absolutely nothing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that place would be cool just to go to, just in general, just to see the
Yeah.
building itself.
Yes.
So that place, yeah, that's definitely up there on my list too. Callie, what about you?
I just want to go. I don't have a particular place in mind. I want to go to like an abandoned insane asylum.
Hell yeah,
That's kind of
Yeah.
that's
my
kind
vibe
of
right
that's kind of my on my tops. Like I want to go to Trans Allegheny.
Yeah,
I
Um,
want to do
yeah.
that one.
That's like on top of my list. I want to go to Rolling Hills Asylum,
Yeah.
St.
That's on
Albans,
my list.
St. Albans. Like
Waverly.
Waverly, yeah, Waverly. That's probably Waverly.
see, and I've actually been to Waverly Hills 3 times.
Yeah.
Before
Shelly.
before we actually started my team, I went like 3 times in like 13 months, and it was during the public investigations they put on, but the place is so big you can have 75 people there, and you won't really interact with anybody else. So
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's good.
yeah,
It's monstrous.
it is, and it's creepy as hell, and it's just overall it's an absolutely beautiful building inside and out. So as a team, what is your goal as a team?
I would
I
say
mean-
just to kind of like honestly, just to like educate like for me, I mean, I think we just want to like educate people. We want to help the field out with all that. We like to try different methods and just to have like a really good time and to help people out. I feel like a lot of times people are really scared of this. I found out like they'll be like terrified of like ghost hunting, and I'm like, it's not, first of all, it's not always scary. Sometimes we have some of the funniest shit happen, like, funny shit, so I think like we may all have different things, but I mean like Tim probably has like the best probably answer for it because he's the one that put this together.
But for me, it's just grassroots. And I always tell people, if you lead an honest investigation, the client appreciates it, even if you don't get anything. As long as because people can read through the hype or a con or something. So I always just try to teach people to be proficient with the tools, because that adds credibility to your investigation. And just run an honest investigation. And it's all volunteer, so have fun with it.
And allow other people to do stuff, like let them touch the freaking equipment.
Yeah.
Like that's huge for us. Like
Mhm.
I know it sounds so dumb, but since you've been investigating, and like you said, you've been on tours that are like, I think it's so important because nobody does that for people. Like I would never be into it if I had never met Tim. I mean, I would have went on a ghost hunt or two probably with Gina, like whatever. But if I hadn't met somebody, that's why I call Tim like a mentor for me. If I hadn't met him, that was like encouraging, and because when you first go, you don't know what to ask. I still sometimes don't know what to ask. Do you have any questions?
Right.
Like, man, I don't know what the fuck to ask? Like, I don't know what to ask. Like, I'm just sitting there like. Even with Dowsing Rods, I got 4 questions. Like, what do I'm really? So I'm constantly learning, and like I said, I feel like it's so important to have somebody like Tim, or like now I feel like the girls or Aaron or anybody else on the team. We want to encourage people to don't be afraid of this and to touch it and try it, and I feel like that's like a big part of what we do and why we do it the way we do it.
I agree with Kelly. I think that's a huge part of it. We were all people just doing events at one time. If Gina, like I had always watched Ghost Hunters, I was obsessed with BuzzFeed Unsolved. I loved watching people go and do their own investigations. If I never saw Gina doing it, I don't think I would have ever ended up doing this.
Right.
And when Gina's like, "You want to come?" I was like, "Absolutely." And now I haven't stopped. So it just, what you're never asking, you're never looking for it. So like that's the one thing. I've had so many people, friends and family, just looking at my Instagram and being like, I know I don't always like your stuff, but I want you to know that I'm reading it. It's fascinating. And so
Right.
I think we're educating, we're bringing awareness. I think we're kind of also making it like a comfortable space for people to talk about it. I think some people are like afraid to talk about it. Like that, like ghost hunting is scary for some people, like Hallie said.
Right.
So I think that we're trying to make it, we have some fun. We have funny videos. Like we do show that while we're doing the serious part of it, we are always trying to have fun, bottom line.
Right. All right. So I'm going to close with this. What's one piece of advice you would give to somebody who's wanting to start their own team or is wanting to get into paranormal investigating?
Just do it. Find a partner and just get to it. There's
Go on an
thousands.
event.
Yeah, there's thousands of beginner videos. Tim has beginner videos.
Has books, Tim's an author. He's
Yeah.
written
Yeah,
books about it.
Yeah.
Go to a couple of events, learn what the guys are doing, and just get to it.
And
Right.
as Tim always says, like in his class, like basically don't sell the house for equipment. Like you can start with basic equipment. Like you don't have to. I mean, we have a couple of team members that use like the Kinect. They use it on their phone. What's the correct terminology for the Kinect? We always call it the Kinect. What is it?
The SLS.
The SLS, yeah. So they do the SLS. They have like a phone app they use with that, or even the Ovilus app. They have that, So you can buy a K2 and do a couple things like that. You don't always have to, as Tim would say, sell the house, to get into it.
Right.
And always have a buddy.
Always have a buddy. Even we
Never
got a
go
lot of
alone.
good recordings on our phone. Gina always tells when we're talking about it. That we've gotten some of our best recordings on our actual phones, like on our iPhone recordings, recorder. And to keep your phone in airplane mode. I think that's important.
Right. Because it can set off some of the equipment and people don't realize that. Hell, I didn't realize until actually, I do watch all those shows for entertainment value. And I've learned about some of the places we've been to because of these shows, but I didn't realize that your phone not being in airplane mode would cause some of this stuff to go off until I actually seen it in one of the shows. So
right, a lot of people don't realize that, and we always try to tell people that. You know what I mean? And Tim has a bag, Tim? That you put the thing that you put your phone in.
Yeah, you can put a Faraday in it, but because I got Faradays.
So it won't interfere.
Some people are on. Some people they like that. They'll wrap a spirit box in a Faraday or something. I keep just sheets with me, and if someone wants one, they can just wrap it around it. It's not a bag per se, but it's Faraday material.
Okay.
But just if you're gonna, I always say if you're gonna get out there, be proud of what you do because you're gonna be amazed. I mean, I wear either my Haunted South Florida shirt or my long hair ghost hunter shirt every day. And I have more conversations just wearing a shirt.
right.
Because people are into it and they're like, in the beginning, I'd get you're crazy. But over the past 15 years, I've never heard someone say you're crazy. It's either that's pretty cool or sometimes you might get the religious people saying, "Oh, they're all demons," but I've never heard
Right.
anybody say you're crazy. They're saying, "Oh, that's cool," I sometimes I want to get into that, or
Mhm.
my place is active. So if you're going to start a team, just be proud of what you do. Don't mortgage the house. Just buy some basic stuff. Build it from there.
Right.
Because I have 7 cases of stuff. I mean, I have 20 K meters. No one needs 20 K meters. But I have all that stuff to loan out. I have
Right.
probably 8 or 10 millimeters, So don't mortgage your house, but just go out and do it. Aaron's right. Just jump into it. Just have fun. But
100%.
team
Right.
up with someone.
Yeah, make sure everybody for sure.
Always have a buddy. Safety first.
Right.
And
Yeah.
my suggestion is to always keep rolling, because that is how you're going to capture your evidence.
Yeah.
That is how you're going to capture your photos, your videos. Also, keep your phone on airplane mode, but even on airplane mode, just keep recording. And, I've captured some incredible evidence because I always have my phone and I'm always holding it, and I'm always ready to take a video or a picture.
Right.
Yeah.
See, and it's crazy you mentioned that, because again, I'm going to go back to the Scott County Jail. That night last year, like, all this stuff was happening, right? But it would seem to happen right when we get into a room before we get everything set up, or as we were leaving, but after we done shut everything off and we're going to a different room. And so I did an interview a couple of weeks ago, and he mentioned how he uses body cameras. He's like, I've
Yeah.
always got one rolling, and I never thought about that. And I was like, man, I wish I would have had one of those, last year, because we had all kinds of shit happening, and we weren't really able to document any of it except right there at the very end. And one piece of advice that I always like to give people is to be patient.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
all you guys know, that this stuff doesn't happen when you want it to.
Never.
You
No
know,
circus.
and you could be in a location for 8 hours and not think you captured anything, but then when you're going through the evidence, you could be capturing EVPs left and right, and you don't even realize it. So that's always my one main piece of advice when somebody asks me what's kind of something I would tell somebody.
Yeah.
So if people want to look you guys up online, how can they follow you guys?
The ladies put it all together. They do a great job. It's hauntedSouthFlorida.org.
All right.
Also,
are-
Instagram too. Instagram,
do.
Haunted South Florida.
Yeah, they put the evidence up. The reels are amazing.
Yeah.
If I did it, it'd be boring. It'd be a snooze fest, They do. I mean, I've had people walk up to me at events, say, "Man, your reels are mind blowing." I go, "Yeah, that's all the ladies.
Great job.
They do just an incredible
Yeah,
job."
seriously, good job, Dina.
SSP.
Mine would be a snooze fest, man. It'd be like I do a little YouTube thing, and it's just me talking. I'm sure people record it to go to sleep by it, but
ASMR. Sleep ASMR.
yeah, it's better. It's better than taking drugs. Just watch Tim's educational video.
Right. There you go.
You learn a little something, then you go to sleep. It's good for the body. So they
No,
do
but-
great stuff.
Right. Well, guys and gals, I really appreciate you guys coming on. I really enjoyed this interview. Like I said, it's been my biggest one to date. And so I want to go ahead and thank the guys and gals of Haunted South Florida, Gina, Callie, Christina, Aaron, and Tim. Thank you all for coming on tonight.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
Thank you so
It was a
much for having
pleasure.
us.
All right, everybody, go check these guys and gals out. They put up some really cool stuff, and they had to be really intriguing in order for me to reach out to them. So thank you guys again, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Same.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.